because your body's having a bit of a push to push all that stuff out of your liver and out of your kidneys. So then you may never have had allergies and you go, oh, I'm getting these all of a sudden. Either it's digestion or you're working hard and you're actually doing the right stuff. Because I don't like when people come in and they're saying to me, like, I'm doing all the right stuff, but I still have allergies. Don't be upset with yourself. You're actually doing the work. It's just that the body has to keep cleaning through the liver and through the colon.
All right, guys, he is back. We got Chris Motley here again. Thanks for coming back, man.
Thanks so much for having me, brother. I really appreciate it.
That first episode was a lot of fun, and it was cool seeing the feedback on some of those clips.
Yeah, we got a lot of good feedback. I remember one of the clips we had about parasites in animals, and I had a mixed review of people that really
the dog kissing.
They understood that people maybe there's a possibility. And then there's some that would write that, hey, I'm going to still keep kissing my dog and my animals. And I was like, in no way am I telling you not to kiss your dog. But it was a lot of good reviews, man. And I wanted to say thank you personally, really. I mean, that was a fun episode. And truly, you asked such good questions. And I didn't realize how much in the world, because you have such a big outreach, that like things like parasites or emotional fatigue really affects so many people and down to earth, like deep down hard questions. So thank you so much.
For sure. And really something that affects a lot of people is allergies, which I actually have right now, which is crazy because I never had them. So what do you think it is that causes them? It seems pretty common these days. Everywhere
you go, the one of the biggest things that if you move to a certain area, because you were talking about how you moved to Las Vegas, a lot of people say when they move to Nashville that right when they land, that they literally start to get stuffed up, they get congestion. And we can get really technical about the issue, but really it's higher histamines. And we can talk about biochemistry, how higher histamines in the blood would make you more susceptible to have allergy responses. Because histamine basically tells your mast cells, your granulocytes, these little cells to basically release and to actually go and attack any foreign invader, like the pollen that comes into your nose. Now, this day and age, though, I think that there's differences in the weather currents, and I can't explain that, but what I am finding is in Nashville, we used to have weather currents that would push up more west of Nashville, and now they push more east. So you're getting more pollens that are getting into the jet stream, whether it be in the western areas, even in the midwestern areas, and we're getting a lot more different pollens.
Wow.
So people are coming in with different types of pollen allergies. Now, with all that to say, higher histamine can make you more reactive to the pollen. But what I am also seeing is that we're getting more fungus, more mold, more biofilms, and digestive issues that are leading to you having the allergies. Because in the Eastern medicine world, the lungs and the bronchioles are related to your large intestine. The strength of one depends on the strength of the other. So when you have an allergic response that comes up, I know that there's high histamine, but I automatically basically assume and look for infections in your digestive tract, in your colon, in your small intestine, which is then causing higher histamine response overall. Then you get pollen in your nose, you get some kind of mold, and you become reactive.
Right.
So why is it happening? Higher amounts. I think we've got more fake fats in our food. We have higher processed sugars. We've got more biochemicals in the air, in our food, in our water. And that is making our bodies basically go like process at a lower level. So if you have an automatic response where you say all of a sudden this year I just had allergies, that also tells me this, brother, that you are processing more toxins than you ever had in your life. So you're processing more toxins now, and your body's trying to flush them. You know about autophagy, where the body starts to recycle old toxins? When you're doing your life with healthy living and you're pushing more toxins into your blood to get it out, you can be a little more susceptible to have allergy responses because your body's having a bit of a push to push all that stuff out of your liver and out of your kidneys. So then you may never have had allergies and you go, oh, I'm getting these all of a sudden. Either it's digestion or you're working hard and you're actually doing the right stuff. Because I don't like when people come in and they're saying to me, like, I'm doing all the right stuff, but I still have allergies. Don't be upset with yourself. You're actually doing the work. It's just that the body has to keep cleaning through the liver and through the colon. So that, in my opinion, is why we're having such a high effect of allergies all over, especially in the South regions.
Yeah.
Because there's so many different types of pollens.
Almost everyone I know deals with them, even dogs. So one of my dogs has it, which to me is crazy because dogs used to live 100% outside. So the fact that they're getting allergies now is wild to me.
Oh, it is not surprising now, though. Over the years, man, you'll see that dogs have higher amounts of yeast and candida than I've ever seen. Now, I'm not saying I'm a veterinarian. I have a lot of veterinary friends that are very holistic, and they are in the holistic realm. And what they
All right, guys, shout out to LinkedIn, today's sponsor. As a B2B marketer, you know how noisy the ad space can be. If your message isn't targeted to the right audience, it just disappears into the noise. Luckily, with LinkedIn ads, you could precisely reach the professionals who are more likely to find your ad relevant. With LinkedIn's targeting capabilities, you can reach them by job title, industry, company, and more. Stand out with LinkedIn ads and start converting your B2B audience into high-quality leads today. LinkedIn ads allows you to build the right relationships, drive results, and reach your customers in a respectful environment. You'll have direct access and build relationships with decision makers. There's over 1 billion members on their platform, 180 million senior level executives and 10 million C-level executives. You'll be able to drive results with targeting and measurement tools built specifically for B2B. In technology, LinkedIn generated 2 to 5x higher return on ad spend than other social media platforms. You'll work with a partner who respects the B2B world you operate in. 79% of their content marketers said LinkedIn produces the best results for paid media. Me personally, I've found some great podcast guests, and it's been an incredible platform for finding out new information. Start converting your B2B audience into high quality leads today. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/social to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/social. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be.
They have found is that dogs and cats, you can monitor and find that there's lots of yeast that come through their skin and through their fur. Now, what the point is that these dogs and cats, no fault of their own, if they have had in the past, not now, many owners have beat themselves up because the foods they've given their cats and dogs were probably not of the best material. And they've shown that through studies now how bad it affects their digestive tract. Just as much as we get SIBO or we get leaky gut from our foods, cats and dogs can get that kind of condition. And now, when they get higher amounts of yeast and candida, they'll get higher histamine. And so you can find out if a dog has a lot of fungal growth in their body, they're going to have higher allergy symptoms.
Wow.
So we use herbs in the Eastern medicine world. I have patients that take their dog to holistic practitioners, and they ask me for suggestions about herbs. And you can use certain herbs for your animals, as a human can. And you clean up their digestive tract, and their allergies will start to subside. They'll stop sneezing. Their skin will stop itching. One of the biggest is I had a patient that had a small pup. Well, it's an older pup, but the dog had scratched all the fur off the stomach, on the shoulders. And from my estimation, I sent them to another doctor, but I've studied some dog acupuncture and veterinarian classes for animals, and I found out that the dog had small intestine issues, and I could, from the symptomatology and from the things I've studied, I thought the dog probably had parasites.
Wow.
And a small amount of fungus. Suggested to the animal owner that they could go to their doctor. They got on anti-parasitic, antifungal herbals.
Yeah.
Everything went away.
Holy crap.
All the fur grew back.
I need to look into that for my dog because I take them to the vet.
Yeah.
Every time I go there, they make them get shots.
Every time. Now, that's one of those regimens I had to be careful talking about, but you're right. When you start to have symptomatology where, when they want to use a shot to try to remedy the case, I always tell myself and the owner of the pet that, remember, they have as sensitive of a system as you do, and you can use herbs of the earth, and you can use a proper diet to actually clean up the issue. Now, I had a friend who was a veterinarian who I used acupuncture muscle testing. And his process was he always tried to help the patient with their decisions about if they're going to do shots for a certain condition. But he always used a raw diet. Like literally, this is me, like you saying, I didn't know that could be. Dogs that had horrible types of parasitic infections, and especially mold in the Tennessee area, he would put them on a raw diet. He would actually tell the owners, open up a raw egg. He would do all these things and make them eat that. And they say, yeah, after 3 weeks, the dog went back to normal.
Wow.
Because it increased their natural acids in their stomach.
Interesting.
So I would say if you're a pet owner, yes, there's mandatory shots. I understand that. But if your pet's going through some regimens, I would ask a holistic practitioner, a veterinarian, to see what can be done, especially through diet and through herbs, because they can help.
Yeah.
And I've seen some really miraculous things with pets.
That's good to know. I'm going to look into that. I actually just ordered them raw food recently. So.
Oh, yes, man. There is one of my good friends, they're on Instagram, Doug the Pug, and their family, we were good friends, and they have a really good line of herbal tinctures that helps with congestion, and it's called Noni. So if you guys ever want to look into it, it's a really good product, and they've had herbalists, they've had their natural practitioners formulate it for their pets. You may want to check it out. I can get you in contact with them too.
For sure, I'd love that.
They'd be great at it.
What are your thoughts on the raw diet for humans? Because there's people eating a lot of raw meat right now, raw eggs, raw milk, raw dairy.
I have mixed reviews. In no way am I saying it's wrong or right. I would say that every person has a different type of acidic component within their digestive tract. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that says, hey, you got to eat raw because it actually will basically pinpoint your diet and your enzymes to be able to just tear apart that particular type of protein or that type of food to make you have less histamine response and better protein assimilation. Well, I would say this. I'm one of the individuals that if you have a good source, I'm all for it. But when you have different things like raw eggs or raw meats, I always am aware, a little bit conscious of the parasitic components and bacterial. Now, I know that there are people out there that would say that raw dairy has really good enzymes from the cow, that it should, in its own way, enzymatically clean up the dairy so that you as a person should not get sick from it. I'm not saying that nobody can do it. I think there's certain people who can, who have really strong stomachs and really good acidic components within their belly to tear it apart. If you're that person who never really had high amounts of H. pylori or E. coli, you probably could do a raw diet. But also, I've seen on your podcast before, and I love when they talk about genetics, like the ApoE gene diets, and there's different types of gene types that are meant to have higher acidic components in their gut to tear apart the raw food. I'm more of a thyroid body type. I have higher active thyroid. I am meant to eat more meat because I need the iron load. But people who are estrogen dominant, they usually have more of the acidic components in their belly to tear apart vegan type diets, vegetarian type diets, and Pritikin with fishes. So that was a long-winded way to say that there are certain people who are meant for it, in my opinion, and certain people who aren't.
Right.
Yeah.
You mentioned thyroid. There's people that eat amazing diets, but they have trouble losing weight because of thyroid issues. Do you know why their thyroid is having an issue?
In my realm, I would say that it does depend on the body type because we talk about the mesomorph, the endomorph, and ectomorph. But like I am more of an ectomorph. I have a thyroid dominant because my hands are very skinny.
Oh, that's how it works?
That's like your hands are very skinny. If you look at your hands and you have knuckles that are more pronounced, that would tell me that you probably have a higher acting thyroid. So if you ate sugars and fats, you'll eat up those sugars and fats quick. Were you the kid in school that you could eat anything you want? Everybody goes, oh, Sean, you're just so skinny. You need to eat more food. And you're like, yes, I do eat food all the time. And in fact, I can eat 5 times the amount of food you can, and I'm still going to burn it off. That's thyroid dominance. So when individuals, if they eat a good, clean diet, a keto diet or paleo, and they can't lose, the strength of the thyroid can depend on our body type. Now, if you look at a person that has thicker hands, you know, like kind of fleshy hands, they're probably estrogen dominant. If you look at your friends who have a big hand, but if you look at some of your friends and they have a big hand, but they're real thick fingers like sausage digits, they're adrenaline driven. They're adrenal dominant. So you have to look at your hand type or your body type. But if you can't lose weight, the thyroid's probably infected with an infection. This is where in my experience. So if you can't lose weight, look for the viruses such as Epstein-Barr virus, cytomegalovirus, herpetic, the herpes type viruses. And those usually are in the thyroid or strep. Because think about when you're a kid and you remember, I got strep throat when I was a kid 5 times and it never got better. And these individuals go, oh yeah, I took antibiotics and I had strep 5 or 6 times a year. And they go, I remember I can't lose weight now. And they're in their 30s and 40s. And you know, when I do my examination, do some biofeedback, I find strep.
Wow.
And I find herpes evidence. And then I go get them tested, and sure enough, they have non-active, or they'll say, oh, it's not really active because it's an IgG response. But they're still in the cells, and they're still draining you of energy in your thyroid.
Holy crap.
So if you can't get rid of weight, you need to look into those types of viruses and parasites, but also the infections of strep or staph in your thyroid, in the throat. If you always had strep throat, it's a clear indication. Some people may look at me a little odd when I say those things, but I would say out of 10 people, 9 people out of 10 would always have those infections in their tonsils, or they had their tonsils taken out. And when we do a sputum test, you have them hawk up a loogie, spit it in a tube, send it off to one of the labs I recommend. and they'll have those infections usually.
That is crazy. I could see it though, because you're doing recent studies on Lyme disease and how it stays in the body for years.
For years, and I always equivocate an infection staying in your body for a long time. They say, well, they have a lifespan, but now they're saying that bacteria and parasites and certain types of viruses are so well adapted that they can actually live for years in your body.
Wow.
Because they adapt. They're just like somebody who bums off you. They stay in your house, they keep eating your food, you keep giving them the place to stay, and you're just too afraid to like tell them you need to leave. It's the same thing with an infection.
That is scary.
Isn't it crazy that it can get into your throat? Do you ever notice that individuals at times, Sean, they'll come, and not everybody with a raspy voice, but you notice that people have a raspy voice or a very throat voice and they're younger? Most of those individuals usually have had an infection in their throat that has weakened the throat muscles, and so they'll actually have a raspier voice in the throat. So those are the common signs and signals I look for somebody who can't lose weight. It may seem like a lot, but you can do it in an instant because I do it every day.
Wow, a raspy voice. So Miley Cyrus.
Miley Cyrus, and now if Miley's watching this, I'm not talking on Miley Cyrus, but I would say that if it's a very raspy voice, then you have to look into if there's any infections within the vocal cords around the tonsils. Because I would suspect that would actually have an indication. And in Eastern medicine, raspy throat has to do with weak kidneys.
Wow.
So fear. The fear of not moving forward fast enough. The fear of being left behind. And the kidneys, there's a lot of receptors on the kidneys that share the same receptors as the heart, thyroid, and certain organs. So you won't get nourished in the kidneys because of fear, and then the other organs suffer as well. So you'll have a raspy throat. So you can look at people who, you ever talk to anybody, rather than they'll say something like, yeah, and they just sort of like, hey man, how are you doing? And such. Weak kidneys. Fearful life. Not that they're a fraidy cat. Can I say that? Like they're not a fearful person, but they just may be fearful of moving too slow, not being able to keep up.
That's interesting. I always thought it was just from smoking, but I never.
It can. We have a weak throat because the smoking would affect other people like very quickly, and that can do it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I just got a brain scan done.
Did you?
Yeah.
Dr. Amen?
Dr. Amen.
Oh man, have you interviewed him yet?
No, I had one of his doctors on, Dr. Storage, but Amen's been busy. I'm gonna try to get him on.
Yeah.
Did you ever get one on yourself?
I never got one on myself. I have tons of patients who have got some because I had Lyme really bad. What did it say on yours?
So they can't really 100% diagnose based off it, but he was saying that there's a likely chance I have ADHD, I had some childhood trauma, and permanent brain damage.
I would say that I would love to see your brain scan one time if you can send it to me.
I'll send it to you.
Now, ADHD, like, did they find like the areas? Did they find that the permanent damage, was it like in a circular pattern? Was there any divots in your brain?
It was there was a divot in the front and the back. So he was saying it was a pass-through injury.
Yeah. Did you like hitting your head somewhere on a hardwood floor, like you play a lot of basketball, or did you get hit in a car?
Yeah, maybe just getting elbowed really hard in the head. I don't really know the specific moment, but.
Did they put you on any good supplements to help your brain?
We're talking about that now. Yeah, I like their approach because it's actually holistic, which I love. Not a fan of the Western stuff.
Yes.
They're putting kids in public school on 50 vaccines now, which is crazy.
And it's so hard for the liver to actually assimilate so many things that are coming into the body. And then one thing like with ADHD and brain damage, when you had an injury when you were a kid, or anybody that got a sports injury, when they give you the supplements, which I love because they'll give you all the supplements that will build your brain up. The hardest thing though too is in the ADHD, if your genetics have a predisposition not to assimilate vitamin D very well, or vitamin B, some people say MTHFR. Let's say you got brain injury, a concussion, and you have MTHFR.
I have that one.
Yep, that would actually keep you from absorbing vitamin D very well, which would activate vitamin D receptors.
Wow.
And when you combine that in your body, the vitamin D receptors, such as the DRD, and there's a few other ones, but basically those help you to assimilate and make dopamine and serotonin. So if you can't absorb vitamin D very well, you'll eventually start having ADHD. You could have OCD, ADD, even bipolar. So you'll see kids nowadays, if they actually have had like bad diets, which most of our school systems put bad diets into our system with lots of sugars and fats, then you could have some head injuries. You could have different types of toxicities within the body. And then you throw in genetics. I can't imagine throwing 50 kids in a room and thinking that every one of them's going to pay attention. And then you get mad at the one individual because they can't pay attention. You're like, they have a genetic predisposition and all these other things coming up where they can't pay attention.
Right.
So I feel for those individuals. And now with the liver toxicity and all the amounts of toxins that are coming into the body, you're going to have a hard time with that MTHFR ever balancing out. So I'm glad you got the brain scan done. I mean, let me know like when you start to feel better, because what I've seen is when you have that straight through injury, when they start giving you the nutrients like the choline and the good fat, you'll probably see on your brain scan that the brain will actually fill out.
Wow.
Watch.
That's exciting.
It is exciting, man.
Because it was previously thought that when you had these permanent brain injuries, you couldn't fix it, right?
That is, now they're saying it's not true. Like there's a really good book, The Brain That Heals Itself, the Brain That Heals Itself by Herman Deutsch. And he was a medical doctor, but he was talking about the plasticity of the brain. But now they're saying that they're showing that neurons can actually grow at fast rates if you get the right nutrients.
Wow.
And that fats and assimilations of fats, if you have good fats in your diet, which you're showing, because I love when you show like how you're eating good beef and you're eating all the good fats. If you assimilate it well and you get rid of the infections, your brain is like a muscle. It'll grow. It'll get more fats and it'll assimilate it. So you can actually build your brain back up.
Yeah.
So don't let anybody tell you that you can't build your brain back up.
That's exciting. Yeah. I've made massive changes to my diet recently. I just got an MRI. I had a ton of visceral fat everywhere.
Oh,
which is crazy because I thought I was super healthy and I wasn't getting enough steps in and I was eating a lot of carbs and sugars. I thought I could eat whatever I want because like you said, I could eat unlimited food and it doesn't show on me.
Yeah.
But viscerally, it showed a lot.
It is like whenever you get a fatty liver, they say people don't realize that you can get fatty pancreas, you can get a fatty spleen, you can get growth of fats and triglycerides around the organ. And like you and I, like we're both like thin, and so people would always say like, you don't have an ounce of fat on your body, you should eat more sweets. I had one person tell me I should drink Cokes more, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. But you're right, with high sugars will turn automatically eventually into triglycerides if you don't have the right nutrients. So most people will be thin, and it'll grow this layer of fat around the organs, and so you have triglycerides because the liver's full of it now. And even though you're thin, it doesn't mean you're healthy.
Right.
So I'm glad you're doing it, though. What did you start eating more proteins?
Yeah, huge wake-up call. It has to be grass-fed, grass-finished, and they have me eating fermented vegetables. So very specific diet. But I used to eat carbs every day, like pasta, fruits, everything.
You would want to, though. Like you live a pretty fast-paced life, from what you told me, but you're thyroid dominant. So what would happen is your thyroid is so good at burning sugars and fats, but mostly sugars, that it's such a quick form of energy. You could eat it and your body actually feels high. And you're like, and your thyroid goes, give me more of that because I can burn it. Eventually, it catches up on you. And like when you start to get in your 20s and 30s, you're like, your body says, I can't do it that fast. That's why we crave it. So I tell people who have our hand type, eat the good beef, eat the good fats, because when you do that, you'll switch from burning all that sugar into a more sustainable energy source.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need the iron, man.
I do. I was shocked because, like I said, when you're so skinny and you have a six-pack, you just think you're healthy, but then you get a blood test and you see you have deficiencies. You get a brain scan, you see you have problems, and you get an MRI, you see you have visceral fat. It's pretty crazy. It
is, and it's a good thing that you're cutting it off at the pass right now, because like as you're doing this right now and you get your brain functioning, I always tell my patients, you get the good fats in your diet, you take out that excess sugar you don't need in the carbs, and you heal your brain and your liver, and you watch, you're gonna feel like a new lease on life. Like you're gonna want to do more podcasts. I guarantee it. You're gonna be like, oh, I can do more.
That's exciting.
And so your brain actually will have food, will have energy.
Yeah, that's really exciting. I feel like I do a lot now, but even more, I'll take it.
You need the energy, man. As fast as you run, man.
Yeah, I love your videos on acne because you say like if it's in your cheek, this is what's causing it. If it's on your back, that's what's causing it.
Yes. Usually when you have acne, I always use this little Chinese medicine doll, and so the acne is evidence of where the meridians in Chinese medicine, where the meridians run on the body, you always go to that meridian pathway, and wherever your acne is, you correlate it to the organ that meridian is attached to. So sometimes individuals will come in and say, I get a pimple all the time on my temple. That rhymed, didn't mean to do that. Yeah. But right here. But that is usually associated with the gallbladder, because the gallbladder one is on the corner of the eye right here, and the spleen. So you look at those correlations. Have you ever seen the individuals that have little bumps on the back of their arms? Pimples? Small intestine.
Wow.
All the way. So you can look at that person and say you have SIBO, a small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. If you have pimples all over the chin, okay, reproductive, because that's a hologram. The body's a hologram of the rest of the body. So you have pimples here. You're going to look at the ovaries, testes in men. You could have acne here. It could be the lower bowel. So you can always ask that patient without even saying anything to them, do you have any cycle issues? Do you have any period problems? And the majority of the patients will say, yes, I've had that, or they had it in the past. So acne is inflammation up through the Meridian system. And I can get into the technical aspects of why you get acne, like on the chin, as opposed to the organ, or when they work together. But it's all because our bodies have certain germ types. All that to say, your whole digestive system is made out of one cell type, an endoderm type. And there's some that are made out of the mesoderm type cells. With that, if one area gets infected, the whole area resonates, like vibrationally, like energy medicine. It vibrates with that one organ. So you could have a parasite in your large intestine, and it's causing a ripple effect all the way up through the whole digestive system.
Wow.
And it correlates with the cells that are in this area, because there's certain cells of that particular endoderm that are around here.
Yeah.
You see how it sort of correlates to back together. But it's a great way. You can do it on your friends and your family and your loved ones. You could just go, hey, I know what you got.
No, I love your approach, because I had terrible acne as a kid, and no one ever, everywhere, my face, neck and stuff, never on my back. But I love your approach, because they just told me to put cream on it. They told me to be on Accutane. They never told me why it was happening.
Oh, man.
They never told me to change my diet.
And that's what, when it's all over the face and like on the back and like throat, you probably had, in my opinion, you probably had a lot of throat infections. Like you probably had some sinus issues and throat issues. And when it goes all over the face, it usually is in all the sinuses.
Yeah.
And in the back of the neck, yeah. Did you have sinus issues or anything when you were a kid, or like just like throat congestion?
I would get, sinus infections, and it was all over. I had scars, everything.
Yeah.
It was nasty.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of kids have it these days.
It is, because it's truly, I have to be careful how I say this, but it is usually in microbes that are probably taking place in the ventricles, like the areas in the brain, the sinus glands in the brain, and in around the eyes, and even in the ears. So when you had it all over your face, one other thing we had to talk about is like your teeth. There could be an old tooth infections up in the jawbone, and I have seen that acne on the face, around the neck. I've cleared out all the organs and the correlation, and they'll still have 1 or 2 spots left. It's always an infected tooth.
Wow.
So when you're a kid and you have all these individuals that they're eating sugars, they don't know any better. They're eating these bad fats. They have these infections in their head. They're eating the processed foods. They poop, gets in your head, and all of a sudden you have all the acne all over the face. And then you start to get what? Lower thinking, slower thinking, because all that neurotoxicity is keeping them from thinking. And then you have kids that are falling asleep in class, in school, and they're like, no, you need to wake up. He's like, they can't.
Yeah.
They have too much neurotoxin. But that's what I get from acne.
Wow, that's crazy. So a tooth infection can lead to acne.
Tooth infections can. Like I could tell you story to story, but like story time real quickly. I had a patient that she had to eat the clean diet. Her husband's a doctor, does really well with everything she's doing with parasites and mold. And there is still an area around her nose and her upper lip and right down here. And I've cleaned up as much as I can. Now with frequency testing and energetic medicine work, I would test, and there's other devices we can touch the tooth with and see if they actually have a good electricity going to them. But there was 3 areas that weren't. And those areas had infections. She goes, well, I also had a root canal up in one area. And I was like, I guarantee that root canal's doing it. I had another patient had chronic headaches and migraines. And when they get them verified, they go to the holistic doctor, dentist, and she had the same issues. And I was cleaned up everything. She couldn't get rid of these headaches. It was about down 60%.
Wow.
But she had tooth infections in the past where her old wisdom teeth were cut out. So she went to the holistic biological dentist near my office and found 3 of those sockets were completely filled with infection.
Jeez.
I had another patient, man, I will tell you, I had another patient that went to a biological dentist down in Texas. No, in Alabama, and could not get rid of strep throat. Had a pocket of infection because I kept saying, I think there's H. pylori. We go get specific testing with the lab. H. pylori, still there. Went and got a scan of her throat, and there was pockets of her esophagus where the infections had created these little holes and pockets, and the infections were sticking in there.
Oh my gosh.
And when they cut open the gum and pulled out, there were pictures of small parasites, like cysts and little balls with these green stuff in it, and there was parasitic worms. And this is not me saying it.
Yeah.
This is the dentist who's saying it. Goes, oh, those are parasitic worms.
That's disgusting.
And that whole time, putting toxins into your bloodstream and in your jawbone.
Yeah.
And into the throat.
That's so crazy. What's your opinion on getting your wisdom teeth out? They've been trying to get mine out for 10 years, and I heard a lot of infections are started from that surgery. It
can, like the biological dentist that's near me, they said that even if you don't get them cut out, they say that the impaction, if it's growing sideways, if they're growing up, that could create distress and pocketing. Now, I'm not an expert at it, but they say that that in itself still could lead to certain types of infections growth if you're not careful. What some of the doctors have said and what I've seen is that when they do get the surgery and get it cleaned out, they try to keep it a dry socket, keep it open. If you do that, you have to keep it very clean. And I tell individuals they want to do like a plasma injection. They want to put plasma in there and sew it up. If you can put your own plasma in there and sew it up, you usually won't have a problem.
Okay.
So I can get you into contact with a good biological dentist just for advice.
Yeah, I'd love that.
And I have one that's really good that's near my office, and they love to do consultations. You could probably just call them and talk to them and send them scans.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's important.
Yeah, you need to. I wouldn't go and just get a random time where you just cut open the jaws and leave them open. I did that, and I had 2 of them.
2 wisdom teeth?
2 wisdom. I had 4 of them taken out, and 2 on the bottom had cavities in my jawbone because they showed it to me, and it was big divots. And when you think about getting cut out, I was going to get mine cleaned out. I went to a friend of mine who did holistic dentistry, and he took a CAT scan on my face, on my head, and he said, "Oh, they're not there." My friend, Dr. Alan Lindsley, who's great at Lyme disease, he said, "You got to take these herbs." He got me out of the majority of all my Lyme disease.
Wow.
I was taking these tinctures, and man, I'd be driving down the road, and my jaws felt like they were going to pop open because it would hurt so bad because that stuff was cleaning out because I was taking all the tinctures. I did double dose. I shouldn't have. I didn't care. I was like, I'm doing double dose. And for almost 6 months, I felt like my jaws were going to pop open, but that cleaned them out because I had a CAT scan. I got another one. It was gone. I was like, well, it can heal, but on majority, I wouldn't say everybody should do that. I think you should, if you can get them cleaned out and get them filled up and closed off, I would suggest that. And there's probably new techniques that I'm not aware of. But I'll get you in contact.
Yeah, I'd love that.
As individuals.
What does it mean if your gums bleed easily?
Normally, I would tell me that you have. It depends if all the gums bleed easily. It usually means there's a stomach infection.
Wow.
So if you're a person out there that suffers from bleeding gums just randomly, it means you have a stomach infection. They're like, I don't have any stomach problems. You go get tested specifically for H. pylori, E. coli, or Salmonella, and I would be surprised if you didn't have it, or your parents did, especially the mom. So if your gums bleed all over, you could have gingivitis. Of course, you can go do an oral dysbiosis test. Take a test to see if the bacteria in your mouth is growing any infection. But also, if it's a specific tooth, you have to look at that specific tooth and go and get a neurological tooth chart. Just Google it, and it'll tell you which tooth is correlated with which organ.
Wow.
And that tooth will tell you which organ has been sick or imbalanced in your body without you knowing it. The teeth are a preliminary. They're telling you what's going on in your body. That's why some people go, I have a bleeding gum, or I keep having a tooth that's getting a cavity, or I have a cracked tooth in this one area. It's a neurological tooth. I had a cracked tooth on one of my back molar here, stomach. I had stomach surgery in 2017.
Just from a cracked tooth? What if you chip it like playing sports?
That's just if you chip it. But if it's weaker than the others, it can happen. Because I've watched a lot of good dentists and medical doctors talk about how a tooth can conduct electricity. And they can tell if the meridian conduction is at a negative polarity. Negative, it's a healthy tooth, like negative 40. But if it goes up to like a positive, it's probably sick. And usually they'll trace that tooth to the organ, and that tooth on the majority will be, that organ will be majority will be sick, or they've shown that there'd be like cyst and tumor formations in that organ.
Holy crap.
Yeah. You got to watch some of those things. And I'm not saying it's like, not me just saying it, but they'll show that there's a high correlation because the tooth was getting sent that bad electrical signal. And the tooth was just a recording the issue. It was just saying, this is going on in the organ. And really interesting facts about certain medical doctors, and they've probably been, ostracized in their own way, when they showed that they had these tooth infections themselves, and they found that they had formations of cysts and some tumors. And but saying that a tooth is leading you to find out there's an infection in the body would be, that's crazy to most people. But don't ever underestimate. In biological dentistry, they say each tooth is represented as an organ.
That's crazy.
So if you have an organ or a tooth that's bleeding, look at the organ. Yes.
So if you have a cavity in a specific tooth, that means there might be a health issue in that related organ?
Yes. Yes, and because if you keep having a reoccurring cavity as well, and you eat the same diet, like why does the other teeth ever get sick? Look at that organ, and then you go get a test. It's not sick. Then look at your family history. Go back in your family history and say, hey, did my mom or my grandmother have like a problem with their spleen? And it's surprising, man. When you look at people's teeth.
Yeah.
I had a patient that lost 11 teeth.
Jeez.
11 teeth. I'm not talking bad about anybody. He lost 11 teeth, right? Sweetest person you ever met. But I can't go into all the specifics, but I would say that there was high amounts in my estimation, and I found like there was going to be cadmium in her body from my type of testing, frequency medicine. And there was high amounts of mercury. And sure enough, she went and got a heavy metals test, and there was high amounts of cadmium. And I was like, where would you get cadmium from? I said, were you raised in an area that had like factories and stuff? Because they get in the groundwater, right?
Yeah.
She goes, yeah, I was raised in West Virginia, and I had tons of coal mines. And they can have nickel and cadmium, and they can have all this runoff water that has these metals. And I'm not saying the tooth is, caused anything or this caused anything. I'm just saying they had a high incidence of people with brain issues, like brain cysts formations.
Wow.
In their county, and she had suffered from something like that, and it was that whole accumulation in her body, and it was representing itself possibly by coming out like through the teeth, through the gums.
Jeez.
It's just amazing how the body will like allow things to represent itself in certain other areas.
Yeah, that is incredible. So you were probably not a fan of veneers.
No, I wouldn't say I'm not a fan. I don't want anybody out there to think that I'm like totally against veneers or anything or any type of surgery. Please don't think that. I'm always like East meets West. I think there's a time and place for things that are needed. But I always say with veneers or crowns, because I have a crown on this one tooth, is just do your best to keep things clean underneath the veneer. And that means like oil pulling with coconut oil or sesame seed oil, using ozonated powders or ozonated pastes to clean the teeth to get the ozone in there. Or if you do it, you can do, there's ozonated, I think there's mouthwashes now. But a really cool thing you need to do is when you have a veneer is my friend at BioLight Shop, Dr. Mike Belkowski, I'm not getting any kickback from him, but he's got a mouth guard that actually has infrared.
Wow.
And you can put it in the mouth and put it in there for so many minutes and it will heal all the mitochondria. So I would do that too.
Holy crap, I need to get that.
Yeah, I can send you the link.
Yeah. Is that a prescription or is it?
No.
Oh, that's
no, it's
cool.
great. You could just put it in the mouth, and like individuals that kept having cracked teeth, cavities. Again, I'm not a dentist. I'm not going to like a dentist. I'm just saying we got that device for them and got them on ozonated, and we got them on coconut oil, and like the individuals literally have like not any more cracked teeth, cavities have gone away, especially with that red light. I'm not saying it's me. It's just their activities. Yeah. And thankfully, the lady that had lost all the teeth, getting rid of all the infections and doing these different types of steps, she's a champ. Like no more teeth have been lost. All the roots look incredible now.
I need to look into that toothpaste too.
Yeah, I'm gonna get the list for you.
Okay.
I can send it to you.
Is it fluoride free?
Yep.
Okay.
Fluoride free. No fluoride. It's all organic based, and it's like I wouldn't suggest anything with fluoride in to any of my patients because when I talked about fluoride, I know that there's a big controversy, and some people say, you're crazy because you're talking about fluoride, but some of the testing I'm saying that we've done in the office with heavy metals have shown a lot of correlation with pituitary and pineal and interglandular issues. I'm saying there's a correlation, in my opinion, that and they have higher fluoride and cadmium in their blood. Wow. So, I mean, there are some things like I would not suggest a toothpaste that had the fluoride.
Yeah. And that's what they suggest our whole lives growing up.
Oh, yeah. Remember, they're like, if you don't have fluoride, if you don't have fluoride, you're going to do your teeth a disservice. And I was like, now, like, they show all the neurological effects of fluoride.
I'd rather just use coconut oil. There's no side effects.
There's no side effects, and there's also, I know you've seen them probably, and people out there have seen where they use a different type of food-grade hydrogen peroxide, baking soda, coconut oil, and use different mixtures that, during the day, like you do something in the morning and a different regimen at night. People's teeth are clean as they can be.
It works. Because I used to have really yellow teeth, and it's definitely improved from just coconut oil.
Yeah, I was thinking it was really funny because I would switch with coconut oil. And this is like talking about myself. And my teeth gotten like, because I drink too much coffee. And I started doing that. You notice that when you spit it out, it's like a different color after you spit it out, and I was like, oh man, it's that much stains. But when people think about how a coconut oil has different types of acids that clean out your infections, I literally had cold sores come up on the inside of my mouth at different spots. I never thought I had a cold sore. Wow. And I started doing the coconut oil, and I was like, my mouth got so sore, and people said, why? I was like, I had little viruses. Damn. I had Epstein-Barr, really bad, from Lyme disease. And when I started doing that, it started to come out. So you're not just like getting whiter teeth. you're killing infections.
Absolutely. I used to get those too. They're called canker sores, right?
Canker sores.
Yeah, I used to get those monthly when I was growing up.
And when you have monthly, when you're younger, remember you had the facial acne?
Yeah.
Canker sores, herpetic or papilloma type viruses that are probably hanging around in the oral area and the parotid glands or in the sinus glands. You didn't even know it. And they just came out to play whenever you got sick.
Right.
So those are the things that gave off the toxins.
Wow. That's crazy. Did you see they found a parasite in RFK Jr.'s brain?
I saw that. Have you had him on the show yet?
Not yet. Soon.
Oh, man. I may have a good connection for you.
That'd be huge.
Okay. I'll talk to my friend
Thank you.
who has. I met him at a big conference about 3 years ago, and it was before COVID. Sorry, and but when they talked about him having the parasite in the brain, I was like, but honestly, and people may like lash out at me for saying it, but I honestly, there has been lots of microbiologist journals and them showing CAT scans of individuals that have had parasites in the brain. Like there's pictures of individuals, not just from other countries, but they had some individuals that were coming from other countries, and they had worms, evidence of worms, and they showed it on CAT scans in the brain.
Wow.
Like wrapped around certain areas of the brain, and they had to go in and they actually pulled them out. How did he kill it off with medication?
I don't know what he did. He should have contacted you though.
And most people, man, I could tell you another story. I had another patient. They said that this one individual, they found that he had some certain forms of cancerous growth. I'm not saying they're connected, but they did another scan of his head, and they found all these different types of splurges, and that's what they say parasites look like. And to me, it was completely what it looked like.
Yeah.
But the journals now are showing, like this has happened for years, that they show that parasites can get into the brain. So I'm glad he got it out. They said he got it cleaned, right?
I think so, yeah. That's pretty scary to have it in your brain.
No, it can. Well, a lot of infections like Lyme disease can cross blood-brain barrier because they have a shape that's corkscrew, and they can burrow into the actual arteries because the arteries are really strong.
Yeah.
They have a polarity that keeps them from actually opening up, so the body doesn't allow anything to get in there. But those infections are strong enough to weasel their way in. So they'll get in there. You know, the brain's full of sugar. It's mostly fat and sugar, so it's going to go in there to eat up as much as it can.
That makes sense.
So, you know, I can't say this for a fact for everyone, but I would say that you'll start to see individuals that have like really bad brain fog, and I always test them for infections of parasitic activity because I've seen reports. I can't say it has to be verified through labs, so I'm just saying like for what I'm seeing. But you know, there's protozoa parasites, and there's protozoa parasites that are in groundwater, and lake water, and river water. And no, I'm not saying it's bad to go swim in the lake and river. I've had people get on to me for that. I'm not saying that. But like, let's say individuals went to a body of water and the water went right up their nose, or they drank water that had E. coli in it. Does that go right up into the sinus glands right near your brain? And so they'll wonder why I got brain fog and I got headaches right after I had that happen. Because protozoa parasites find an area and they find the tissue to infect, and they camp out. Wow. So if you read a lot of the medical journals, it's really interesting. And I'm not saying I know everything about it, but if you keep having those types of conditions, please go even get a poop test. Yeah. Go get a test. There's certain tests out there that I could recommend to you, you know, that will help you find out.
That is fascinating.
Infections.
Are there parasites in the ocetion water when you go to the beach?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, but the thing is, they say this, that there are parasitic infections that they say the saline maybe can actually negate, like the amount of salts, amount of minerals. But they say that your bacteria on your skin, they say that like primordial bacteria that they want to call it, but they say the bacteria on your skin is actually fed by a lot of the algae and a lot of the things that are in the ocean water. So it actually strengthens the bacterial surface. There are some parasites, they say they're in there. I've had patients, like relatives, that have been in the ocean on the beach, and don't get scared about going in the ocean, please. But literally have had parasites that have got made away into a cut on the foot, and I've seen like literally pictures of like little worms in the side of the leg.
Holy crap.
And one lady, can I tell you a funny story? It's not funny. She's very holistic. Her mom was so holistic that she said that she saw the worm moving up and down the leg. She could see it. And the mom wouldn't do anything about it. She said she was so organic and granola. She's like, it'll die off on its own. So I'd have to reason if it was a round worm that was from the ocean that it went in there, that that eggs had to be laid. I mean, if it was, but the person that it happened to was the only person in their whole family that got type 1 diabetes.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm not saying it caused it, but they are saying with type 1 that they found that certain viruses, even type 1 diabetes, organizations say that certain viruses and even some parasitic infections and bacterial infections can damage the pancreas.
Jeez.
And I'm not saying it caused it. It makes me think.
Yeah.
Could that happen?
Correlated maybe, right?
Correlated. But don't be afraid of the ocean. Go to the ocean. I go to the ocean all the time.
Yeah. As long as you're taking a cleanse, you should be good.
You should be good. You just clean it out. Like when they say do a cleanse every 2 times a year or something like that, you should be fine. Yeah.
Some people do it every quarter.
Oh, I think quarter. I do a methylation process where I keep my liver clean, and so every day is like a anti-parasitic thing, But I recommend for patients when they say, should I do a good parasite cleanse? I'm like, 4 times a year. Yeah. Easy. I mean, you think about the amount of parasites that are probably in the meats that, I ate Taco Bell for crying out loud when I was a kid, and I ate McDonald's, and I thought that was like, I hope we don't get, beaten up for this, but I mean, it wasn't the best meats,
Quality-wise.
Yeah. So, you have to start cleaning those out because certain parasites love to hang on, man. Mm. They have little
tapeworms, right?
Oh man, they have the connectors, and they've got certain little tendrils that can just stick into you. Yeah, and they burrow in. Yeah. So
I've seen some crazy photos of parasites, man.
Yeah, man. I could show you some good ones too, man. I had one that came out of a patient. It was on the little guy, and I was just doing some herbal tinctures, and it looked like a tree root.
Holy crap!
Man, I was like,
had 3 heads.
It had. Have you ever seen that? You ever seen Harry Potter where they pull the little root out of the dirt?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like screaming or whatever.
I've seen that.
It looked kind of like that.
Holy crap.
I'm not kidding.
That's crazy.
And I'm not making light of it. I think it's just very alarming that those infections can take place in the body. And I want to be a practitioner that says, they'll say, well, some people say, what if it is? What if it isn't? Well, we've done a lot of testing, and a lot of testing correlates with parasitic infection. I just want to be able to take all sides of the argument, like this can be true and this can be true, but at least just try to help the patient. Right. Try to clean the body out.
Do you believe there's certain frequencies that can help with healing sickness, parasites, diseases?
All of them, yeah. My thing is I love frequency medicine. I use microcurrent at the office, and microcurrent is low level, very minute microcurrent connecting pads, and they conduct low levels of electricity. And if you put the right frequency and the right wavelength and amplitude, you can help clean out and kill off infections.
Wow.
Because there's a lot of practitioners out there and a lot of things you've probably seen that they show the activity of an infection and it's moving around. And you can buzz a frequency right into that infection. And there's a couple ways it can happen. You can increase the frequency, the resonant frequency. You ever seen that where you have a person sing and the glass shatters?
Oh, yeah.
Because their voice matched the resonant frequency in the glass. And it amplified the signal. And so you can do that to an infection, find the infection's frequency where it lives, push it into the infection, and it'll increase its energy level so much it'll
explode.
Pop open.
Wow.
And then there's other ways where you can take the out of phase wave and you can flip the wave, like sine and cosine, and you can actually pull the energy from the infection.
That's incredible. And you're wearing headphones?
You can use headphones. You can use handheld probes where the current's running through you like a cold current, right? And you can actually use pads that shoot current through certain areas of the body. Now, the reason it's so popular, it wasn't that it was used for that. So I'm not saying you go use microcurrent for that. But I've seen it used on athletes. Like if you look at some documentaries with Terrell Owens and those guys who had breaks in their leg, they use that to heal their bones because it heals bone quickly. It heals broken bones. But now they're having where they can use wavelength, light, infrared. They're using sound. They're using electrical currents to kill off infections. And to me, it's the medicine of the future. And I know that people out there probably heard about energy medicine, and they use like Reiki or they use things to move.
Sound bowls, right?
Yeah, sound bowls. Why? Because what they're doing is training a sound bowl to be at a certain C theta frequency, which is activating the organ it resonates with. And so it'll make you, with your pineal, relax. So can you do a sound bowl in your house and have it set to a certain frequency that would actually find infections in the body? Maybe so. But now it's like, when I talk about this, I had to be pretty careful because, I mean, you have really great, interesting people on your podcast. Yeah. In the medical realm, I'm very cautious about what I say because I've seen things work really well on people with infections, but I can't say that this caused this.
Right.
So I'm really, really cautious. But frequency medicine, I would love it to where, and they're doing it now, where we could have music coming through our car and we're driving and it's helping you with your chronic condition.
When I wake up sometimes and I feel off, I put on this playlist on Spotify that's frequency healing. And I don't know if it's placebo, but I feel better almost every time.
No. The reason I wear these glasses, everybody says you're trying to look cool with these glasses. Mm-hmm. Our friends at Raw Optic, they were like, he said, hey, this actually in the daytime will stimulate and filter out coarse blue light, but it actually stimulates your parasympathetic. The light that's going through actually stimulates parasympathetic, your relaxation. And I'll put it on, man, and I'm not just saying, I'm like, I actually feel a lot relaxed, pretty relaxed
just from
this.
Glasses.
Just from glasses. And when you talk about like putting on the frequency, I use this one Peaceful Meditations playlist, and I do my own testing, and I'll go, oh, that really works for me. And I keep it all day in my office.
Wow.
And people come in and they fall asleep on the table, and they're just like, I'm just like, it's not just relaxing; it's a certain frequency.
Yeah. Have you seen certain zodiac signs have the same health conditions? Have you seen any relation there?
Yeah. I wish I studied some zodiac. I did a long time ago. I did a zodiac Instagram post. But what I was finding that certain zodiac signs, they had certain conditions that were more apt to be for that month or for that zodiac sign. Now, they'll say even in Chinese zodiac that each zodiac, it can get pretty entailed, that each zodiac sign normally has an organ that it's correlated with. And even certain types of sicknesses, because in homeopathy, they'll say it's basically a constitutional or a miasm. I won't get into that. But there are certain zodiacs signs that I would find, like for this person, always like H. pylori. This other zodiac sign, like if I was in the Capricorn in the 12th, like in the December area, you always look into the time of year. And usually those individuals will have weak kidneys.
Wow. Capricorns?
Capricorns. Now, if you're a Capricorn and you have weak kidneys, but you're going to look at people that usually are Capricorns, and you'll look at their drive. And you'll look at the drive, I think they say like LeBron James won, I think Tiger Woods is one or something. And you look at those individuals, I'm Capricorn, and it's like we push. And they say, of course, the idea is that we push so hard that we don't want to be left behind. But that is huge in Eastern medicine.
Wow.
It's literally like kidneys are the fear of being left behind. There is a fear in these individuals when they're young that says, I never want to turn out like this. I never want to have low amounts of money. I never want to, be in a place where I have no success. So I always say, yes, I look for individuals with their zodiac sign. If they had, usually like if they're in the middle of the summer, I always look at their stomachs and I go, you probably have stomach issues if you are born in the late summer months or spleen issues. So there definitely is a correlation with certain types of infection. For instance, kidney problems. If you're born in the last month, I usually look for hidden UTIs, urinary tract infections, and kidney stones.
Wow.
And you'll find them. Like literally like at people who don't think they have any type of problems and, they're born in the Capricorn area and they're like, they say, oh, I have no kidney problems, but go get them scanned. And they'll find kidney sludge, small amounts of kidney stones, weak kidneys. So it's a good tool. So please don't think I'm trying to act like a know-it-all with the zodiac. But it is very interesting when you see all these correlations come together.
I'm a numbers guy, so if I saw it laid out on paper where this zodiac sign had this % chance, I could see it.
Yes, and usually, like when you and I like numbers, because people say like I'm a nerd with numbers. I love when I see things correlate. I may have an old chart that I could send to you about how numbers and numerology,
I'm big on numerology.
I am so surprised. I had a patient of mine a long time ago. She took all my numbers, and this was 12 years ago. And she told me about certain sicknesses I had at certain times, and I was like,
crazy.
That is crazy.
And she never met you?
Never met. She knew me, like we met twice. She goes, just send me some of your birthday and the time you were born.
Yeah.
And she's like, and this is additional. This is what could be happening in your body now. And I'm a skeptic at heart. People wouldn't think I am. And I was like, this is really legit.
Yeah. I mean, if they could tell you your life story without knowing you, there's something there, I think.
With us, what month were you born?
February.
Okay.
I'm an Aquarius.
Yeah. Aquarius, like with me, I have had some Aquarius being I'll say stubborn.
Yeah.
Aquarius being like somebody who you need to prove to Aquarius that something's going to be true, you know, but you do bring life.
I'm open, like I'm very experience-based too, so I'll personally experience it and see. But then from there, I like to see numbers and statistics.
Yeah. And I think that, to me, when I got into like frequency medicine and got into this whole realm of like bio feedback and then using Chinese medicine, I would have to have it hit me over the head so many times before I kind of believed it. Even with the acne, you know, condition, you say, well, the acne's on the back of the arm. Is that coincidence? No, I've seen thousands of patients, and I'm not bragging. It's not that. It's like I've seen that and correlate it to how many of them did have SIBO.
Right.
So, you know, when you talk about numbers, I would love to do that, though. I would love to somehow get those, run my patients' numbers through Numerology.
That'd be huge. You should use some AI and input all the results and see what it spits out.
That's a good idea. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be major.
Yeah, man. This is good.
Dude, it's been fun. Anything you're working on next?
I am working on, I'm basically right now working on doing a little bit more on my membership platform. So I've been creating more of a membership to try to make it where for people who really want to dive deep into their own health realm and learn some basics, but really learn some of the extra things that they could have with their condition. I'm trying to build that up. I am building it up. And so if anybody out there has like a condition where they feel like they're not getting answers from their normal route, I just want to be that person that tells them this is the extra things. Like if you have this condition, these are the extra steps from an Eastern medicine and even Western medicine perspective. I'm working on that, trying to build that quite a bit up. And I am trying to get my own like YouTube channel, starting to put that out there because, again, I just want to put out education. So this next season, I've always put stuff on Instagram and some YouTube, and I just really want to make it about pure education, helping as many people and giving good information. My goal is to try to make it very tangible and palatable so people can actually absorb it.
I love it, man. We'll link everything below. I love what you're doing.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it so much.
Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you learned something new, and I'll see you tomorrow.